Welcome to the college football show. Man, oh man, we got a lot jam-packed in it for you. Week 5 in college football was absolutely incredible, people. And we got a chance to get more exposure to the contenders and the pretenders in this new normal season. That's the season where you can't just roll out your helmets and win. You can't just throw your jerseys out and win just because you got a big old nice fancy logo on your jersey. That don't mean you're just gonna win a football game. Even though it may get you additional ranking points, it ain't gonna help you on the field. It's like we tell recruits all the time, stars can't save you, buddy. Don't matter whether you're a 5-star, 2-star. When you get on that field, stars can't save you. So we had the Georgia Bulldogs at Alabama. It actually may have been the game of the year. You got Michigan, Penn State, and Notre Dame. All got quarterback issues still, but they are still winning. And then you got teams like the Oregon Ducks, Clemson Tigers, Ohio State, which nobody's really talking about them right now. And they all rolled. We ain't talking about them. And the Heisman Trophy this year might actually get back to the good old days again, make the Heisman Trophy great again, because we got players who I think are the front runners in Travis Hunter and Boise State's running back Ashton Jeanty. And this is back to way college football is supposed to be, people. Now the games, well, we're gonna start with obviously our best and worst of the week. And, we're going to talk about the game of the week and everything in between. Now, the overarching view of week 5 is, like I told you, it always comes back to the new normal season. You can't win. And that them preseason rankings are rat poison for fans. Oh my God. Think about how many fan bases looked at the beginning of their season, first week, 2 weeks, whatever, and they looked at it and they said, oh, we're super good. We can contend in the ACC. We can contend in the Big Ten. We can contend in the Big 12. And now after a few weeks, they like, ooh, damn. It's not as good as we thought it was. Might we still have a good team, but it ain't like we thought it was. And I'm talking about teams like Ole Miss, Miami, the way they fared against Virginia Tech, Missouri against Vanderbilt, and we got to talk about that. But we're actually going to start with the Heisman Trophy, because I told y'all we might be getting back to the good old days of position players having a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. And my Heisman Trophy rankings this week, you'll have a video coming out about it this week detailing it a little bit more. But through week 5, we got number 1 on the list, Travis Hunter. Are you kidding me? He had an interception and a touchdown in the same game for the second time this season. It is impressive. He's an impact player on both ends of the ball. Now, Colorado is now 4-1, and they deserve a lot of credit, because me and a lot of other people have questioned Dion and this offensive line, their defense, and everything else. And this is a team that is clearly better than they were last year. But as it relates to the Heisman Trophy, though, we're talking about an 8-4 team, right? Potentially 8-4. If the ceiling 9-3, right? Now, historically, beside from that RG3 year, they haven't really wanted to give it to a 3-loss team or a person in that position, or a team that's not even potentially a playoff team. But I think we're looking at something special. And I told you guys last week as well about the whole Charles Woodson and Devontae Smith from Alabama. He's doing the same thing in one season. So he's number 1 on the list. Number 2, we got Ashton Jeanty. Oh, Lord have mercy. The kid from Boise State, another 26 carries, 256 yards, 4 touchdowns. And on the season, the dude already has 845 yards and 13 touchdowns. We are approaching Barry Sanders 1988 territory in terms of well over 2,000 yards rushing and approaching probably 3,000 yards of all purpose yards, which is incredible. Number 3, and these are in order, is Jalen Milroe. Hell of a performance against Georgia. But what we're not going to do is jump Ashton, Jeanty, and Travis Hunter because he played in a bigger game. Nah, man, these dudes have been tearing it up all year. Number 4, Cam Ward. Didn't have the greatest game against Virginia Tech, but most importantly, he was able to come back and win. And that 343-yard, 4-touchdown, 2-interception performance, plus 57 yards on the ground and a touchdown, those things matter. And then you got John Mateer over there at Washington State. His team took a loss, but my God, like this kid at quarterback is carrying this team. And if you have not had a chance to see him play, set your DVRs, go back on demand, whatever, because you need to see the kid play because it was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. But now we're going to get on to some of the games of the week and my best and worst teams and performances of the week in just a few minutes. But you guys make sure that you guys hit the like button now, subscribe, leave your comments over there. We will get to them. If we don't get to them in this show, we will put them in the mailbag, and you guys do not want to miss any of that. Mailbag comes out on Tuesday. Yeah, so and that is all you guys. And you send your stuff over to I'm mad, IMMAD at unafraidshow.com, or you send it to at George Wrighster or at Unafraid Show, and yourself will make the actual show. All right, so now I want to get to what was billed as the game of the week, the game of the college football season, even more than the big game with Ohio State and Michigan at the end of the year. And the reason why this game has had so much gravitas and everybody so excited about it is 2 reasons. Number 1, Georgia and Alabama have been carrying the weight of the entire SEC on their back. 2019 LSU season. It has been Georgia, Bama, and then everybody else saying, oh, look at the SEC. Look at how many national championships we've won. No, we ain't won nothing. These 2 teams have won everything, and they have dominated. And they don't play often in the regular season. I think 2020 or 2021 was the last time. And then before that, years and years and years. That's why the SEC needs 9 conference games, because we need to see stuff like this more. And this game turned out to be an absolute gift because it turned from an absolute locker stuffing where Alabama was stuffing Georgia in a locker 28-0. I'm watching this game and I am in awe. I am flabbergasted. I am stunned. I'm like, what? I predicted Alabama to win. I didn't think it was going to go like this. I thought it might be a 10-point victory, but Lord have mercy, 28-0? And it looked like an absolute destruction was going to happen. But one of the things that is very, very difficult is to, when you get a huge lead, is to continue playing with that same energy. Because as a coach, you don't want to take risky chances and end up with a pick 6. You don't want to do anything that is going to put you in a bad spot. And then that is taking your foot off the gas. And that's actually one of the hardest things for teams not to do. And it's not even conscious. Because the coaches, they've been there. And they know you do not want to take your foot off the gas. But the difference is you're playing against Georgia and you're not playing against, Wisconsin with their backup quarterback. That's the difference, is that when you jump out against Wisconsin and their backup quarterback, now they are not playing to their strengths. And they don't have a quarterback as good as Carson Beck. And Georgia's defense is good enough that they can stop you some. So a couple stops here and there, and now all of a sudden you got a closer game. So this 28-0 lead turned into a Pac-12 after dark game. And if you don't know that, then ACC fans, you will start to learn, and Big Ten fans, you will start to learn about them after dark games, man. Them 7:30, 8 o'clock kicks. Pff. But this turned into one of them games. But I got to give Georgia credit. The reason why they were able to come back and damn near win this game is because they have the heart of a champion. And Kirby Smart, the DNA of this Georgia team is correct. The DNA of this Georgia team is built out of all the right stuff. This is how you win championships. It's not quitting. Now, a lot of people want to turn the TV off. I was actually laughing. I was like, look at Georgia getting their ass whooped. They done beat people down so bad that I couldn't help but laugh because turnabout is fair play. But Georgia was like, nah, fam. This ain't how we roll. This is not how we roll at all. So yes, so y'all can get as happy as you want, but just know we don't play. And that last 5 minutes of the game with back and forth touchdowns, the greatest part of the whole thing, honestly, was the camera people did a phenomenal job. Because you had, when Georgia took the lead on Bama, Bama fans are in there. Bro, you would have thought they were going to die, dude. They did the hero goat shots. It was phenomenal cinema. And then the very next play. So Georgia takes Alabama has the lead. Georgia gets the ball back, 67-yard touchdown. The very next play, Jalen Milroe to Ryan Williams, 75-yard touchdown. And you're like, what the hell is going on? I loved every single bit of it. Now, the question is, it's funny because when this would happen in the Big 12 or the Pac 12, people would be like, oh, where the hell's the defense? Look at these teams. They just let them go back and forth. So I do think it is fair to be honest there. There wasn't a lot of defense played in the fourth quarter of this football game. It was not. But we got to talk about the quarterbacks because you had Carson Beck, 27 for 50, 434 yards. 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, while he willed his team, those 3 picks weren't pretty. And he started out very slow. And I actually tweeted out, I was like, this don't look like a first-round pick to me. And even of that 439 yards, he had 200-yard receivers, Arian Smith and Dylan Bell. Part of this was, and I know that people aren't going to like to hear it, and this is what also led to the interception at the end of the game that sealed the game for Alabama. Carson Beck was chunking the ball up on those go routes. Those are just chunk up the ball plays, hope your guy wins a 50-50. Like, that's not particularly great quarterback play. And your wide receivers made hell of a plays on them and then struck out and struck it rich. So this is why I do not have Carson Beck on my Heisman top 5 right now. I didn't think this game was particularly great for him. I thought that he is built out of things that winners are. But I also thought that I was like, we need more film analysis because this feels like a Georgia system that the defense is really good, the offensive line, the running game, that they're going to be able to smother a lot of their opponents. So it makes him look even better than maybe he really is. But I do think that he is a good quarterback. I'm talking about future projection into the NFL. But for a college quarterback, this dude's excellent. But now we got to talk about Jalen Milroe. I told you that he was going to be the difference in the winning and the losing of this game. And he was the best player on the field. He had 117 yards rushing, another 374 passing the ball, 2 touchdowns rushing, 2 touchdowns passing, and an interception. His legs and his athleticism are an X factor that you can't game plan for. You can try, but then he can overcome whatever it is that you game plan for. Because not only is he fast, he's big, he's strong, and he's got a good arm. But now and I will say the thing that I love about these teams, both of these teams, and where we have to talk about where they rank in terms of are they the 2 best teams in the country, is you have to beat these teams to the zeros. These teams are like and it was Nick Saban that you saw it with already. But Kalen DeBoer has now, like, he's now that same type of guy. You got to beat him until the zeros. Kirby Smart, you got to beat him until the zeros. And there are few teams in the country that are like that, where no lead is safe at any point in time. And that's when you know teams are special. So, yes, both of these teams are special. And are these two of the best teams in the country? Yes. But I still do not have them as the best team in the country, because Texas and the AP poll overreacted to this, moving up Alabama to number 1, because what Texas did to the team that they have ranked number 10 was an absolute ass whooping. I mean, it was just, it was bad. So we're not getting ready to sit here and act like that didn't happen, and that Texas for the last few weeks has been playing with their backup quarterback still knocking people's heads off. I don't care if his name is Arch Manning or Peyton Manning or any. If you're the backup quarterback and you are a freshman, redshirt freshman, redshirt freshman, I don't give a damn. You don't have no experience, and you come out and you keep leading the team, and when you think about it, you're like, oh wow. If he had to play in the Red River rivalry in 2 weeks, Texas might still be all right. That's when you know you got an excellent football team. But now talking about Texas, though, they beat Mississippi State 38-15. And honestly, I brought it up, but there's no quarterback controversy. This was invaluable experience for Arch Manning. But Quinn Ewers, the way he performed against Michigan, the throws he made, the moves he made, everything else, this is still his football team. But with Arch, I don't think that this is a natty type team at this point in time. But if Ewers were out for the rest of the year, I do believe that Arch Manning, by the time we get to game 10, 11, 12, would have this team back as a national championship contender. His 26 for 31 for 324 and 2 touchdowns, and a lot of it to DeAndre Moore and Isaiah Bond at wide receiver. That looked good, buddy. That looked good. So I'm still impressed by this Texas team. They are still the number 1 team in the country to me. And we're not going to let just SEC teams just because, and I know that Texas is in the SEC, but people still don't look at them like the way that they do Bama and Georgia because of his history. Texas is just finally now back, because last year, if you do it once, it's an accident. You do it twice, you can really do it, and they really doing it again. So yeah, I like this Texas team and love where they're headed. Arch, Ewers, either way, still a very solid team. But now I want to get to my 5 teams of the week. I want to get to the best 5 teams of week 5 in college football, the teams that put on the best performances in all of college football. Number 1, we have the Alabama Crimson Tide, that 41-31 win over Georgia. Highly impressed. Jalen Milroe, everybody in between. Ryan Williams, 17-year-old. How many times are they going to tell us that this kid is 17 years old? We already know. It's like last year when they would talk about when the Oregon Ducks would play, and it'd be Bo Nix and Taz. Oh, his adopted brother, his brother. Just so they could tell the story over and over and over and over again. We know. We know already. But Alabama. The second team up, Colorado. They went to UCF. Everybody writing them off. They are 12-point underdogs. Went in there 48-21. A decisive victory. And the problem is, I didn't hear enough people giving Colorado credit, because every time that something comes out about Colorado that ain't cool, whether it was a uniform, potential mix-up, or stories coming out, any of it, do you know what ends up happening? When they do something great, people are real quiet. Look at the kid, Cormani McClain. Oh, people criticize Deion, and I did too. I didn't like the way he handled it, his sons, and the way they came at the kid. Just let him go on all about his way. I didn't like the way they handled it, But they've been proven right at this so far. And now I hope Cormani McClain is able to recover from everything. But they've been proven right in that situation. So I'm going to sing Colorado's praises loud because when they do something wrong, we criticize real, real loud. All right, the third team is Penn State. 21-7 over Illinois. And I kind of lowered my energy about it because I still don't love this Penn State team, but this was a hell of a win. I still have questions about their quarterback, Drew Aller, but they were able to put Illinois in a headlock and give them a noogie, just old school noogie. They just didn't let them do anything. And Illinois had a chance before halftime to put up some points. They got stuffed. So this Penn State defense showing up again. And in the second halves, they have been absolutely dominant. They haven't even allowed, I think, over 100 yards in any of their games in the second half. That's the mark of a good team. Because one thing that people don't always understand about how football games work is teams have an entire week to game plan for you or longer, depending on whether bye weeks and all this stuff. And the offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinators have scripts. And they have plays that or line up in formations or do things that you haven't really seen on film. And then at some point in time, all those plays are over with. And then the defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator have seen what the other coordinator is going to bring at them. And then they're like, oh, okay, it's time to adjust. And that's why you see big swings, particularly in college football, at the halftime because the adjustments are being made. All right, next team up, Kentucky. Yo, 20-17 win over Ole Miss. Yo, Kentucky. Mark Stoops, you learned your lesson from that Georgia game when you punted the ball on their side of the territory with 3 minutes left. You learned. This time you went forward on fourth down. And what happens? Fortune favors the aggressive in college football. Huge win for Kentucky. But I'm going to tell you this. I knew that the world was going to overreact to this because I was like, oh, man, Kentucky's going to end up ranked. I will say a bravo to the committee, to the AP voters for not putting 3-2 Kentucky in the top 25 because of this win, because they didn't deserve it. After they got shellacked by South Carolina as well. So, but huge win, big win. But now let's talk about Ole Miss. Fraudsters, buddy. And it's not that this Ole Miss team is not good, but their preseason had everybody fooled. Oh, Jackson Dart, Heisman Trophy. Look what he's doing so far. It's not that any of the players or the team are bad. It's just that you get a false sense of reality when you're not playing competitive games in non-conference. And people think, oh, yeah, so look at this team. They scored 70. They scored 60. We saw it with Mississippi State in the beginning of the season. They beat somebody by like 50, 60 points in week one, and they've been getting their head kicked in since. They even lost to Florida. That's the reality. And the last team up, my Oregon Ducks, 34-13 win over UCLA. Jumped out to a huge start, great start. In the second half, didn't necessarily love it in the second half, but this defense dominated. Knocked the quarterback out toward the end of the game, barely allowed rushing yards. I was very impressed with this team, particularly on defense. And then in the second half, it looked like they just wanted to get home healthy. They were like, in soccer, the term would be using parking the bus. Oregon parked the bus. But now on to another game that we had. And now we got to talk about the worst of the week. The worst college football performances of the week. And remember, these are not the where they're ranked. No. These are the teams that impressed the most. I do want to give credit. Now, before I finish this, I want to go back because I did not give credit to UNLV because they had the whole Matthew Sluka situation this week, and they came out and won. Oh, Lord have mercy. They scored over 50 points on offense. They didn't miss him. And yeah, so kudos to UNLV, who is now ranked. Congratulations. They will be ranked this week, I believe. And they may have been ranked last week in the Unafraid Show Top 25. I got to go back and check for sure. Yeah, this is the team with Brennan Marion's go-go offense that is going to be hard to stop. And so there. But now, on to the worst performances of the week. The 5 worst performances of the week. Number 1, UCF. Oh, I told you already, Colorado 48, UCF 21. UCF was a 12-point favorite, and and the number 1 rushing team in the country, and you couldn't run over Colorado? That ain't it. But good job, Colorado. The second team, the Kansas Jayhawks. Oh, they might be one of the biggest disappointments in all of college football this year. They came in ranked in the top 25. They just took another loss, a 38-27 loss to TCU. This is not supposed to be like this, Kansas. We were supposed to be celebrating you staying in the top 25, and so they got some rebuilding to do. They lost their offensive coordinator last year, and it looks like they've lost their identity on offense, and they got to figure it out because this is not the Jalen Daniels that we're used to seeing. This is not the offense we're used to seeing anything out of this Kansas team. So they got to get it together. The third team, and this is not in order of worstness, but just worst in general, is Ole Miss. You lost to Kentucky at home. What happened to all the points? It's 20-17. You lost. What happened to all the points, Ole Miss? Well, Kentucky's a tough team. It's that SEC gauntlet. Really? South Carolina knocked their doors off. You're supposed to be a national championship contender. And you might still be, but this might be the wake-up call that Ole Miss needed because their non-conference schedule has been Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern before this. And they're not alone in this because Ohio State, same way. But this was not a good performance in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And if they want Jackson Dart to win the Heisman Trophy, they're going to have to put up big time scores, big time stats, everything when it matters the most. All right, next team up, Illinois. I believed in you. Oh, against Penn State, but you did cover the spread, so thanks for that. Penn State 21, Illinois 7. Illinois couldn't score. They just couldn't. And I do like the fact that Luke Altmaier, who had his worst game of the year last year in this game, that he didn't repeat the same type of performance. He was 16 for 25, 185, touchdown and an interception. And this Illinois defense held Drew Aller down, 15 for 21, 135. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But Illinois, offensively, we got to get a little bit better. Now, on one hand, I'm proud of them because Illinois is moving in the right direction. But on the other hand, yeah, this was a game that Illinois, if they wanted to potentially make the college football playoff, that this was a game that they needed to win. And the last team up, Florida State. I know at this point in time, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to promise that. I was going to say that Florida State will never put them back on the worst of the week again this year, but this game was absolutely atrocious. How they lost 42-16. Florida State lost 42-16 to SMU. Now, SMU has been good since they went to Kevin Jennings as their quarterback permanently. He had 254 and 3 touchdowns. But this Florida State defense and offense if this ain't rock bottom, I don't know what is. DJ Uiagalelei had his worst performance of the year, 12 for 30, 222, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It was bad, man. Honestly, it was really bad. And he fumbled too. He didn't. They didn't lose the fumble, but Lord have mercy. It was it was it was just a god awful performance. And Mike Norvell, he has to get something to right this ship. Something like give a sign of life. And they did put Brock Glenn in at the end of the game. The freshman, he went 0 for 4, but obviously that's not anything at that point in time. But I would be willing to bet that we see him start next week to at least get something going because they got 4 losses already. They're 1-4. And they are not going to be headed to a bowl game at this point in time. And in fact, it's going to be hard to find 4 or 5 wins on this roster. But let's talk for a second about this Kentucky Ole Miss game. Now the question is Ole Miss overrated or just not battle tested? And we're going to find that out in short order because this Ole Miss team came in and I gave you their who they had played: Furman, Middle Tennessee State, Wake Forest, and Georgia Southern. So they had played no competitive games. And they're not alone. Ohio State has done the exact same thing. And it is ironic, though, that Ohio State's a top 5 AP team. I don't have them in the top 5 of the Unafraid show rankings because it is based upon the 3 most important criteria in all of college football, and those rankings will be out tomorrow. It is quality wins, schedule played, and dominance. Now, have they been dominant? Yes. Schedule played, quality wins, none yet. So Ohio State ain't gonna be in there either. But Ole Miss, who I had ranked lower than a lot of other people did, was because they hadn't played anybody. And now we are seeing that they're either overrated or just not battle tested. And getting kicked in the teeth by Kentucky might actually be exactly what they need to get better. Because what they've done so far is beat up on teams that couldn't really fight back, is bullying. But now when you get somebody that has been in the ring before or has comparable power or even a little bit of power, they got knocked out. So we're going to see how the recovery for Ole Miss is going to be because upcoming, they got some real football games upcoming. And we're going to see the quality, the content of their character, if you will. Just like I think we are already seen the content of Georgia's character being able to come back, but they've already played Clemson. So they're not overrated. They were tested, but they're not overrated. They just got beat by a better football team. But Ole Miss has South Carolina coming up, LSU, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and Mississippi State. They shouldn't lose more than one of those games, and that's to Georgia, maybe, and maybe one, LSU if they can't guard their wide receivers or something. But this should be a 10-2, 9-3 team at the worst, and they're going to have a chance to make the college football playoff. But I do also want to give credit to Brock Vandagriff, former Georgia quarterback, transferred over to Kentucky. The dude is tough. He is playing a lot like John Mateer at Washington State. He's doing a lot of quarterback runs. This kid is in the ice tub. He's in the all ice tub team for this year, and he deserves a lot of credit. So I got to give it to him there. But now we have reached the portion of the program where we have the quarterback issues portion of the program. So these are the teams that have quarterback issues despite winning. And we've already talked about Penn State. Their 21-7 win versus Illinois. Huge win. Huge win for them to make sure that Illinois can't overtake them for whatever spot that they're going to be in the Big Ten, whether it's first, second, third, fourth. I don't think Penn State finishes lower than fourth, and I think that is going to be cemented by the fact that they beat Illinois because Illinois right now feels like the 5th best team because they already beat Nebraska. And right now, I think we got a combination. I will let you spin the top 3 however you want to. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Then after that, I think you got USC probably. And then you got Illinois. That's where we're probably at this point in time in the Big Ten. All right, next one. This is a Big 12 game that we just got to watch, and it was Arizona at Utah. Remember, Arizona got demolished by Kansas State a couple weeks ago. And now Arizona beat Utah 23-10. And Utah, I had them as the Big 12 representative, but the problem is they're playing with a true freshman quarterback who they did not expect to start in Isaac Wilson, Zach Wilson's brother. Cam Rising, I knew that he was not going to play. And honestly, I'm not sure if he's going to play or when he's going to play, because Utah is notorious for lying about injuries. They did the exact same thing last year with Cam Rising's injury. Through the first 5 weeks, oh, he might be back this week. He might be back this week. He might be back this week. Hell no, he wasn't back none of them weeks. And Cam Rising has been out since week 2. And we're expecting that he's going to be out. I do not believe that he's going to play a football game until I see him play a football game. And Utah is not the same with Zach Wilson, who looks like he will be a good quarterback. He's just a true freshman. And he's up against it right now. And Arizona's defense was able to stop it. And he missed some throws, had a couple picks. And that's exactly what you're going to expect out of a true freshman. But Utah's hopes, their hopes of a college football playoff berth or even a Big 12 championship at this point in time are not going to happen if they're having to rely exclusively on a true freshman when they were planning on a 30-year-old quarterback. Nah, I'm joking. Was he 20, 25 right now, Cam Rising, as their quarterback? But I do wonder what the future looks like for Cam Rising, because he technically can get another year of eligibility for next year. But with the injuries last year and this year, I'm not sure if Utah people are going to be willing to do that. And when I say that, that's the NIL portion of it. Because let's say Cam Rising was going to be a 4th-round pick. Let's say he was going to get a signing bonus, $700,000-$800,000. Would it make sense to go back to Utah? Because he's probably getting well over $1 million there. And get more money there and be even more of a legend. But if you're Utah, how's that money well spent when he hasn't been healthy? So that's the question. And we're still in the quarterback issues portion of the program. And we got to talk about Minnesota at Michigan. All right. Minnesota. They have an offensive problem. And I know you might be saying, George, but they scored 24 points. George, didn't you tell us that your lock of the week was Michigan -9? Yes, it was. And then Michigan's offense just absolutely fell apart. Even worse than it was. This team cannot throw the football, or they refuse. This was bad. I don't even know. Michigan is built well in the fact that their defense is so good that they're able to hold teams down, but they gave up 21 points in the 4th quarter. And truthfully, Minnesota got hosed on that onside kick. That man was onside, and they recovered it. This felt like another one of them Buffalo Wild Wings push the buttons. Oh, nope, we can't have this happen. And we had the same thing happen on Friday night with Miami, and we'll get to that in a minute. Minnesota should have had the opportunity to win this football game. They should have. Ref shanked them on that one. Oh, that was bad, buddy. That was bad. I honestly hated it altogether. But if you're Minnesota, you can't fall that far behind and need a miracle comeback. But this Michigan team, so last week they threw for 32 yards. This week, 10 for 18. Alex Orji was 10 for 18 for 86 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And a lot of those yards were off of screens. They're off of screens or broken plays where he's rolling out and then just find somebody, they get a couple extra yards. This was not elite quarterback play. And Dave Portnoy, He's going to have to be shelling out some money for a quarterback. Now, I do think that may hurt Michigan's recruiting overall, like with the NIL bringing in transfers and the quarterback thing. But if I'm a wide receiver, if why the hell am I going there? Kendrick Bell, Tyler Morris, Marlon Klein. What are we doing? We're glorified blockers. Just saying. I was a receiving person in the NFL as a tight end. In college, you don't want to be blocking just all day. You don't mind blocking, but you definitely do want to get an opportunity to put your hands on the balls. If my kids hear that, they're gonna be like, "Come on, Dad." Anyways, um, now I want to get to the last team that I wanted to talk about with the quarterback issues program is Louisville at Notre Dame. Notre Dame 31, Louisville 24. So you're like, George, how is Notre Dame having quarterback issues? Riley Leonard finally had a good game. He threw for 163 yards. And truthfully, Notre Dame only rushed for 120 yards. They got 31 points off of that. That's a matter of short fields and turnovers. That's what you got. So I am and special teams. That's what you got. So if you're Notre Dame, you are happy with the fact that you are 4-1, a top 15 team, but you cannot be pleased with the way that your offense is playing. And their head coach Marcus Freeman knows it. He's looking at this like, bro, like that was a good win, but we still not seeing what we want to see out of this offense. Less than 300 yards of total offense ain't gonna cut it. You're talking about 283. You ain't gonna be able to beat elite teams like that, and that's where Notre Dame, because Notre Dame, this Louisville is a really good win because Louisville's a good football team with Tyler Shough at quarterback. But there's a difference in beating really good teams and beating great teams. You're not going to be able to beat great teams until Notre Dame's offense steps up and is better. Because their defense, good enough to beat anybody. But it is not like Georgia in 2022 where they were just strangling people. Now, you can play this level of offense if you strangle people. But you can't, because Michigan did it last year. But you can't play this level of offense and your defense not be special. I mean, elite, special, all-time kind of defense. Last thing I want to talk about is, well, actually, we have two more games. And I wanted to briefly cover that Virginia Tech Miami game because Miami fans have been overconfident. I'm sorry, Miami fans. I like you. You guys deserve to have something good happen to you because it's been a while. Your team is very promising, but there was some overconfidence. And it happened last week when Cam Ward pointing to where the play's going. And listen, bro, I understand showing out. I'm with the showing out. But that ain't it. That ain't it. That's a level of arrogance that can lead to the rat poison that got you right here in the Virginia Tech game. In this 38-34 game that you were down 24-17 at halftime and probably should have been down 10 at halftime. And truthfully, after the referees called that a touchdown at the end of the game, there was no, I don't care what the ACC put out. I know what we saw with our own two eyes. There was not enough video evidence to turn that into an incompletion. I would have been fine if they had called it an incompletion to begin with or a touchdown, either way. But once whatever call was made, there was no video evidence to turn it over. There wasn't. And we got to play by the rules. And that wasn't playing within the rules. So there was some frustration from Virginia Tech fans and college football fans around. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. The big name, big logo, famous logo teams, they have enough of an advantage. They don't need home cooking. They don't need the conference trying to protect it. Well, George, they're trying to protect their team. They don't need to. The ACC gets a top 4 team no matter what. in the playoffs. So you don't need to protect them. All right. But now, here are the teams that we're not talking about. We're not talking about them. And one of them's Clemson. Because Clemson is not being talked about right now, and that's the way Dabo Swinney wants it. They had a 40-14 win over Stanford. Cade Klubnik's confidence is going through the roof. And this is a Clemson team that quiet is kept. They're sitting at 3-1, 2-0 in the ACC, at the top of the ACC. They got Florida State. They got to go to Florida State next. They are going to trash Florida State unless Florida State has an Angels in the outfield type performance. They got Wake, Virginia. Then they got Louisville, Virginia Tech, Pitt, Citadel, and South Carolina. This is not a very threatening schedule with only one ranked team in Louisville. And truthfully, they got Georgia and then no other ranked teams besides Louisville. And if something happens to Louisville, they may not be ranked when they play. So this schedule favors them. So I am going to, and with Cade Klubnik getting better quietly, I'm gonna give him. I'm not talking about him, but I'm going to pass off judgment on this Clemson team for a little bit. All right, now the next team up is the Oregon Ducks. They had a quiet 8 p.m. win against UCLA, 34-13. They only gave up 6 points on defense. And the other 7 came on a ridiculous pick six where the receiver fell down and hit the defender right in the chest right before halftime. They were knocking on the door to a score. They were maybe inside the 5-yard line. And I was at this game. Oregon looked physical. It looked tough. This is a team that is getting better after a slow start to the season. And was it really slow? Because Boise State is a good football team. And to play them early in the year with Ashton, Jeanty, and this team, just saying, that close win might benefit Boise State the most when it comes to getting in the college football playoff. Another team we're not talking about, Ohio State, and for good reason. 38-7 win over Michigan State. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, did it really happen? Because Penn State's Michigan State is literally the best team that Ohio State has played this entire season so far. The best team. And so, I'm going to criticize Ohio State's schedule the same way that I do the SEC schedules and the same way that I do anybody else. And Michigan last year, which scheduled horrible in the non-conference. So Ohio State has played Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, and Michigan State. Michigan State's the best team that they've played. And next week when they play Iowa, Iowa will be the best team that they've ever played so far this year. So when they meet Oregon on October 12th, that'll be the first time that they're actually meeting an offense that might actually be able to score on, and a defense that might be able to stop them. So they might meet the same fate as Ole Miss did. But we'll see if they're rat poison proof or not. And then the last team nobody's talking about is Iowa State. 20-0 win over Houston. This Iowa State team, undefeated. They actually might be on the road to their first ever 10-win season. They are 4-0. And on the schedule left, they got Baylor, winnable game. West Virginia, winnable game. The only ranked teams that they have are the last 2 weeks of the season with Utah and Kansas State. So a 10-win season is definitely possible for this Iowa State team and a potential chance to get into the Big 12 championship game. So we're not talking about them, but shh. And the last team we didn't talk about this week really is USC. 38-21 win over Wisconsin. Backdoor cover with a pick six. So congratulations there, because I think they were 15.5 point favorites or 16.5, depending on when you got it. And so USC got better in the second half. They were down by 10 at halftime, and they found a way to get better. So congratulations, Trojans. You did your thing. And you guys, I'm excited about next week in college football. We got Michigan at Washington. Now, people, they're going to beat. Well, listen, it is hard to go up on Mont Lake and win, especially when you can't throw the football. And Washington's running back might be the second best in the country in Jonah Coleman. We got Missouri at Texas A&M. I'm watching this game because Texas A&M fell out of the rankings. This is rare that you have an SEC team fall out of the rankings after a win because they had no business being in the top 25 anyway. Um, After they beat Bowling Green 26-20, then all of a sudden they were ranked. Made no sense. But they played Missouri, and Missouri did not look great against Vandy. So we're gonna see if because Texas A&M is better than Vandy. So we're gonna see which one of these teams should be ranked. Because if Missouri loses, we knew it, frauds. We got to see Ole Miss how they bounce back against South Carolina, and if South Carolina's quarterback situation is better, if the kid is healed up, that'll be interesting. We got Miami at Cal. Game day is going to Cal. We're excited about that. They're one of only a few schools that game day has never been to now. So congratulations, Cal, on that after a 3-1 start. We will be monitoring that. And then the SMU Louisville game, because that's a separation game in the Big 12. Along with Kansas State, who beat Oklahoma State this weekend, and that's another team. Quiet. Shh. They're getting better. Their quarterback, Avery Johnson, is improving, and they deserve credit for that. But you guys, this is the Unafraid Show college football recap. Make sure that you like, subscribe, tell a friend. Go down there and hit the like button right now, and make sure that you share, tell a friend. Peace out. We will catch you guys here on Tuesday for the live stream at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, Thursday for the live stream, 1:30 Pacific, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all sorts of content, shorts, and everything else college football related. And if big stuff happens in the news in general, we're here for you on the Unafraid Show. Peace out.